7 spine-chilling disappearances exposed, unexplained cases that haunt and terrorize forever. The quiet suburb of Maplewood whispered its secrets in the dead of night. 7 children had vanished, and the stories told behind closed doors grew darker with each passing day. No traces. No clues. Only the fraying threads of hope. All the townsfolk could do was erase the names from their minds, but Sarah could not. Not when 2 small hearts relied solely on her. Sarah, 35 and worn thin by the weight of single motherhood, clutched the steering wheel of her aging minivan with clammy hands as she drove home from her late shift at the grocery store. The fluorescent lights had hummed a jarring tune above her as she stocked shelves, but now, as she cruised down the dimly lit back road, she felt the weight of the night settle heavily upon her. The trees hung like gnarled sentinels, looming ever closer, their branches clawing at the sky as if trying to warn her of the darkness ahead. A chill crept down her spine, an unsettling sensation wrapping around her heart like a vice. Pulling into her driveway, the silence was deafening. Sarah's home, once a haven, now felt like a cage. Panic surged within her when she called for Ben, her eldest, only to be swallowed by the stillness. She dashed through the house, fear mingling with desperation, searching every room, nothing but shadows to greet her. The child's toy lay overturned in the hallway, an ominous sign of a struggle that never happened. The creeping realization coiled around her heart. He was gone. Days blurred into one another, a haze of fear and frantic searching. Whispered conversations turned to nervous laughter behind well-manicured lawns, neighbors casting hesitant glances as she knocked on their doors. Every parent harbored their sorrow, haunted by the same uncertainty, but when she pressed the matter with the local authorities, they dismissed her as an overreacting mother. Urban legends, they called them, nothing more. The dismissals only added fire to her urgency. Sarah uncovered a pattern, a chilling thread that connected the disappearances. The town's influential leader, seemingly benevolent, was tied to those lost children. Caution seeped into her bones as she sought out fellow grieving parents. Shadows danced in their eyes as they whispered of secrets buried deep, a darkness hidden behind the town's picturesque facade. They each had stories of their own, of children that had just disappeared. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As dusk turned to night, she felt the razor's edge of desperation. Each knock on a door led to frantic whispers and nervous glances, like warnings meant to guard their lips. The connection between the missing children formed a gruesome tapestry, one that stretched back through generations, but the truth remained buried just out of reach. Then, one haunting evening, just as night blanketed Maplewood, a familiar silhouette appeared at her door. Heart racing, she swung it open to find a child standing in the glow of the porch light. It wasn't Ben. The voice that broke the silence chilled her to the bone. Mommy? A name echoed in the darkness, leaving Sarah paralyzed, a sudden jolt of terror wrenching at her insides. Would this new face help unravel the twisted web, or plunge her deeper into the nightmare? Whatever the answer, she could feel the encroaching shadows closing in, and now, every choice she made could be fatal. Who could she trust when the very air vibrated with secrets? The child stood there, eyes wide and glistening like dark pools reflecting the moonlight. Sarah's heart thudded painfully against her ribcage. "Who are you?" she managed to stammer, stepping back instinctively. "Mommy, it's me, Jesse," the small figure spoke, voice trembling, yet carrying an unmistakable familiarity. Jesse had been missing for months, a name that lingered like a ghost in the edges of Sarah's mind. The weight of realization crashed over her, smothering her like the heavy air before a storm. "Jesse? No, that can't be." Her voice broke, and she felt dizzy. Panic bloomed and throbbed in her chest. Why was Jesse here, and why did she look as if she hadn't aged a day since her disappearance? The child stepped closer, reaching out with a hand that seemed to shimmer and fade in the harsh porch light. "Mommy, you have to help me. They're coming." Sarah recoiled at the urgency laced in Jessie's tone. "Who's coming?" The air thickened with an unseen weight as dread settled in the pit of her stomach. There was something unnervingly wrong. Behind Jessie, shadows twisted and flickered, mingling with the darkness of the night. Unease crept like a slow chill down her back. "Stay inside," she hissed, instinctively shutting the door halfway, contesting the urge to pull Jessie inside. She glanced over her shoulder, half expecting something sinister to emerge from the trees. "The children, you have to remember them." Jessie's eyes darted nervously. "If you don't remember, they can take you too." "Remember them?" Sarah's mind raced. 7 children had just disappeared, a tugging horror lurking at the edges of her thoughts. She had been compiling notes, pawing through old records and interviews. The children's names scrolled through her memory like a morbid slideshow: Ben, Jessie, and the others. "Why do you look like—" "Mommy, I need you," Jessie pleaded, stepping closer, and yet she seemed somehow more distant. A rustle in the bushes snapped Sarah back into the present, her heart pounding like a war drum. Could it be another child, or something else? She had lost her son, and now it felt like a death trap closing in around her. "I can't, please." The desperation clawed at Sarah's insides, urging her to believe. But who could she trust here? A terrible thought flickered: was Jessie even real, or a decoy meant to lead her deeper into something darker? Suddenly, a voice came from the shadows behind Jessie, low and melodic, yet rife with malice. "Jessica, it's time to return." The grip of frozen terror forced Sarah's breath to halt. She peered into the darkness. The form that emerged was too tall, too slender. The town's leader, the smiling mask that hid a predator beneath. "Stay away from her," Sarah shouted, drawing on the inner strength of a bear guarding its cub. But Jessie, even under the weight of Sarah's desperation, began to murmur softly. "I'm so tired." In an alarming instant, Jessie's form flickered and began to dissolve into shadows before Sarah's horrified gaze. Panic spiraled within her. There was no time. She stepped forward, shoving aside the darkness that pressed around her. "No, Jessie. Come back." But it was too late. The shadows snatched at Jessie like hungry tendrils, pulling her into nothingness. Shrieking echoed in the air until it faded, leaving only a deafening silence that enveloped Sarah. Heart racing, she stumbled back into her home, heart thudding like an ominous drum, pounding against a base of dread. There would be no more running or denying. Somewhere in the labyrinth of Maplewood, the truth was hidden. They were not just children, each one a piece linked to a bigger nightmare. And if she didn't find answers, she, too, could vanish into the void. With a grim sense of purpose igniting within her, Sarah grasped her phone. This would be her last chance. She had to dig deeper, confront those who hid in shadows. But as she dialed a number, a chill swept through the house, and the lights began to flicker ominously. What was lurking in the gloom, waiting for her next move? The knowledge taunted from the darkness, whispering that perhaps she had ventured too far into a territory where few returned. Would the truth save her, or would it claim her too? The phone slipped from Sarah's trembling fingers, hitting the floor with a dull thud. The sounds of the night outside seemed to approach, an almost sentient presence that pricked at the edges of her sanity. The flickering lights overhead cast jarring shadows across the room, shapes dancing menacingly against walls drenched in darkness. "Get a grip," she whispered to herself, the words barely escaping her lips. But the tremor in her voice betrayed her fear. She took a step back, her pulse quickening as she glanced around the dimly lit room, searching for any escape, any way to make sense of her reality. But what reality? Jessie had been here, and now she was gone again, pulled into the drink of the night like a stone cast into a black lake. The image of her daughter's face, etched with desperation, haunted Sarah's thoughts. Suddenly, a loud crash outside made her jump. The night had turned restless, the wind howling like a lost soul. She had to know what was happening, had to see if Jessie was somehow still near. Gritting her teeth against the mounting dread, she grabbed a flashlight from the drawer, her fingers shaking as she clicked it on. A beam cut through the surrounding darkness, illuminating the entrance that felt like a gateway to hell. Stay inside, it's not safe, she reminded herself, but with each passing moment, that warning twisted around in her mind. The chill surged again, like icy fingers trailing down her spine, urging her to glimpse what was hidden beyond her door. Taking a deep breath, she edged the door open, the creaking wood creating a chorus of anxiety. The yard lay cloaked in unsettling silence, shadows stretching ominously as she hesitated on the threshold. A deep inhale steeling her resolve, she stepped outside, her flashlight cutting through the heavy blackness. "Jessie!" she hollered, anxiety lacing her voice. Echoes of her own cries faded into the stillness, swallowed whole by the waiting shadows. No answer. The air felt thick, oppressive. She turned her light toward the tree lean, preparing for any gruesome surprise lurking just beyond. The feeling twisted tighter in her gut, it was as if eyes watched from the abyss, judging every move she made. Then a flitter of movement, a blur darted between the trees. Her heart leaped in response. "Jessie!" she called again, hope igniting in her chest. With renewed courage, she plunged deeper into the woods, each step crunching over brittle leaves beneath her feet. "Mommy, help!" a faint whisper seemed to linger on the breeze. She froze, her breath hitching. "Jessie?" But the only reply was the wind rustling the branches above, filling her ears with unsettling whispers, an echo of forgotten memories. As she ventured further, the shadows twisted and morphed. Something shifted behind her, a dark silhouette catching her peripheral vision. Instinctively, she turned the flashlight towards it with a snap. "Who's there?" she demanded, her voice trembling. Nothing, but then a screech pierced the air, inhuman and primal. Sarah's heart thundered in rhythm with the dark pulse of the woods. Everything in her screamed to turn back. But the memory of Jessie's face, her desperate plea, drew her deeper into despair. "Please! Jessie!" she cried out, desperation spilling over. Something flickered again, hidden so cleverly within the trees. She felt time warp, reality unraveling. Was it another child? A remnant of those lost? The ground beneath her shifted, pulling her closer to the brink of something unspeakable. Then, from the depths of the forest, a figure emerged, a child, no taller than Jessie. But when Sarah trained her flashlight on it, she stifled a scream. This child bore an unsettling smile, eyes dark and hollow, void of warmth. "You finally came. They've been waiting." Nausea twisted Sarah's stomach. Who was this? Where was Jessie? Her breath quickened. "Get away from me." She sidestepped, heart racing as panic turned her head to node. The darkness enveloped her, pressing closer. Sarah felt the trees closing in, the shadows feeding on her fear. She had to get out. This was turning into a maze of nightmares. But as she turned to dart back, her vision blurred by shadows, she stumbled over a broken branch, collapsing into the cold ground. "Remember us," the child's voice echoed, chilling her bones as the shadows surged. In that moment, Sarah realized she was ensnared. There was no escape. Her mind raced back to what Jessie had warned, "If you don't remember." Suddenly, a thought danced at the edge of her consciousness. The memories, the children. Could she remember them all? Or would this nightmare consume her too? The ground trembled, restless and eager, as the chilling laughter of a child filled the air, echoes of the seven that had vanished. Would she too be lost to the darkness? The chilling laughter grew louder, ringing in her ears, and then there was silence once more. What awaited her next step? The ground beneath Sarah was cold and unforgiving. As she lay there, paralyzed by fear, the weight of the darkness pressed down like a leaden shroud. Her heart beat in a frantic rhythm, fighting against the suffocating quiet that surrounded her. She tried to rise, but her limbs felt heavy, as if bound by the very shadows that threatened to swallow her whole. "Jessie!" she called again, voice breaking. Panic surged through her veins, forcing her to scramble to her feet. The eeriness of the woods was closing in, each rustling leaf seemed to breathe life into the darkness. Then it happened again, a flicker of movement, barely perceptible. Shadows danced between the trees, teasing her. She swung the flashlight in that direction, but the beam caught only empty air. "Please," she whispered breathlessly, each word a prayer to a cruel night, "don't leave me like this." The chilling laughter returned, louder, echoing through the trees, merging with Sarah's rising dread. It wasn't just a memory of lost children, it was a grotesque chorus of longing, mocking her desperation. "Help us," the voices whimpered, weaving through the wind like a sinister melody. Her pulse raced as she turned slowly, scanning her surroundings for the source. She could feel the hairs on her neck standing on end. Insistent whispers curled around her, calling her to join them, to remember, to kneel before forgotten spirits. Each breath tasted of frost and fear, gripped tight in her throat. "Stop it!" she yelled suddenly, the sound clawing against the silence. "Stop playing games." But the shadows only deepened, swaying like a dark tide. Then she heard it, a soft sob, so faint it almost blended with the wind. Her heart lurched. "Jessie?" She nearly dropped the flashlight as she sprinted toward the sound, every instinct screaming that it was a trap. Without warning, the ground beneath her buckled, a thin snare of roots twisting around her legs. She stumbled and fell, the flashlight rolling away, its beam flickering like a dying star. Panicked breaths escaped her lips as she fought against the hold of the earth, but the more she struggled, the stronger the grip became. "Remember," the phantom voices merged into one, pulling at her mind, weaving a web of memories just out of reach. Faces she recognized flashed before her, children from other nights, all wearing the same hollow-eyed smile. Panic morphed into horror as realization hit. She didn't just need to find Jessie, she needed to remember them all. Frantically, Sarah grasped at the swirling chaos in her mind, each child a thread of her sanity unraveling. I can't lose them," she screamed, not knowing who she appealed to, the darkness or herself. Then a profound stillness fell. Even the whispers faded. In that eerie quiet, she heard a familiar voice, a soft, warm sound cutting through the cold night. "Mommy, I'm here." "Jessie." Hope surged anew, erupting through her veins. Breaching the surface of despair, she tore against the roots entangling her, feeling them snap at her struggle. With one final push, she broke free, flinging herself with reckless abandon toward the voice. As she stumbled through the trees, each step was a miracle. Shadows fled, darting away as if afraid of the awakening light of a mother's love. "Jessie!" Sarah cried again, her voice weaving through the trees, desperation fueling her every step. "Where are you? Please!" But no answer came. The forest seemed to close around her again, and the darkness bloomed afresh. Fear was reshaping itself, twisting into something darker. The faint glow of her flashlight flickered back into view, illuminating the scene before her. There, partially obscured, was a small figure, the same eerie child she had encountered before. Its hollow eyes glistened in the light, a mirror of haunting familiarity. "They cannot be forgotten, you must remember them, or they will take you too." Sarah stumbled back, a chill gripping her heart. "Take me? No, I won't let that happen." But it was too late. The ground trembled once more, and the forest echoed with sinister laughter as shadows advanced, consuming her light, consuming her hope. She felt the world around her spinning as darkness and ghosts began to merge. Remember before it's too late. In that swirling abyss, as the last remnants of light faded from her grasp, a chilling thought tore through her mind. What if she couldn't remember? The laughter surged, bouncing off the trees, and Sarah was left suspended in an unsettling silence, teetering on the edge of oblivion. Would she find an anchor in the memories, or would she become yet another whisper lost to the night? Sarah's breath quickened as the laughter morphed into wails, piercing cries that filled the air with palpable desperation. The shadows seemed to bubble and fold, engulfing her in a relentless darkness. Hazy memories clawed at her consciousness, threatening to drown her in despair. She felt the weight of forgotten faces pressing in around her, children whose names she desperately sought to recall. "Jessie!" she yelled, her voice a raw rasp. Straining against the consuming darkness, she stumbled forward, ever alert for a glimpse, a sound, anything that would lead her to her daughter. But the forest felt like a labyrinth, twisting and turning, leaving her hopelessly disoriented. Suddenly, a flash of light pierced the darkness. It was her flashlight, flickering erratically as it rolled. Sarah lunged toward it, grasping it tightly, fueling her with a momentary flicker of hope. The beam cut through the night, revealing twisted trees and gnarled roots, dreamlike figures flitting just beyond the edges of her vision. Inaudible whispers chased her, like a cold wind trailing at her back, playing upon her mind. "Remember us," they cooed, an unnerving cadence that washed over her. She shook her head vigorously, trying to shake off their pull. But the grasp of those haunting memories began to tighten, squeezing her heart. With trembling hands, she aimed the beam of light deeper into the woods. Shadows darted away, but the momentary stillness was shattered when a figure emerged from behind a tree, a girl, small and ghostly pale. Her clothes hung loose, like rags tossed aside, the same hollow eyes staring back at Sarah, a mirror of the despair she felt. "Help us, we need you to remember," the child whispered, her voice soft yet laced with urgency. "No!" Sarah cried, gripping the flashlight tighter. "I want to forget. I want to lose anyone else." The child vanished into darkness, and the trees around her seemed to close in. Panic surged anew. She spotted movement again, a flicker of white, then another child, and another. Dark figures in a macabre dance, eyes shining with silent pleas. Each child looked familiar, yet their names teetered just out of reach like elusive fireflies in the night. "Wait!" Sarah pressed on, eyes darting left and right. They were leading her deeper into the heart of the forest, deeper into the core of her fears. She lunged forward, stumbling, echoing their calls, trying to freeze their fleeting images in her mind. But their laughter, mingled with cries, grew louder, an ironclad grip around her chest. Just as she felt as though she was slipping away, a sudden memory burst forth: a family picnic, laughter, Jessie's bright smile as she chased a butterfly. Tears brimming in her eyes, Sarah clung to it. "Jessie! Hold on!" With newfound fervor, she pressed onward, each step punctuated by shouts of the children surrounding her. "Mommy! Don't leave us! Stay with me!" She shouted back, desperation leaping her heart rate as despair and hope battled fiercely within her. The trees began to shake, and the ground trembled beneath her once more. The children returned, forming a circle around her, urgency etched into their luminescent faces. "Forget us, and we will take you. Remember, before the darkness comes, what are you?" Sarah screamed, fear gripping her throat. "Why are you doing this?" The shadows whispered, almost in unison, "You are one of us now. You must remember them." The ground shifted violently, and the laughter erupted into a macabre chorus of voices mixing pleas and taunts in her ears. Shadows swirled around her, wrapping tighter, pulling her toward the abyss. The hope she had clung to was fading. In a final surge, she slipped her fingers around what felt like a child's hand, cold, thin, pleading. "Jessie!" But the darkness only tightened. "Remember or become one of us," echoed through the forest like a malevolent chant, drowning her cries as the world around her folded into an echo of despair. And just like that, the laughter resumed, a haunting anthem to the inevitable as shadows swallowed her whole. What had she forgotten in her race against time? Would the key to survival lie within those lost memories, or was she destined to join their lament? Suddenly, a piercing scream echoed in the distance, slicing through the chaos. Sarah felt her blood run cold. It was Jessie. Hope twisted with terror, drawing her forward into the shadows that beckoned ever closer. Would she find her daughter before it was too late? Or would she lose herself in the forest of forgotten souls? Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, each throb a reminder that time was not on her side. The forest was alive with whispers, shadows, and the chilling cries of children. She gripped the flashlight, shaking, refusing to let go. The beam stretched into the dark void, her only lifeline in this haunted world. "Jessie!" She shouted again, voice cracking under the weight of panic. The name echoed, swallowed by the blackness, mingling with the laughter that surrounded her. A teasing, taunting melody that seemed to judge her, crawl beneath her skin. Another scream broke through the cacophony. It was not far. "Help me, Mommy!" It was Jessie. The voice, sweet and desperate, filled Sarah with renewed energy. She pushed forward, dodging roots and branches that clawed at her legs like skeletal hands. Each step felt heavier, as if the ground itself was trying to pull her down into an eternal slumber. The shadows thickened, swirling like storm clouds above her. Something was watching. The trees shifted uneasily, their bark twisted and gnarled as they shared secrets only the wind could hear. Sarah stumbled but sensed movement near her side. A figure darted past, just beyond her peripheral vision. "Who's there?" No answer came, only more laughter. The children danced just out of reach, their faces pale, eyes hollow, forever pleading. She felt them brush past her, cold whispers wrapping around her mind. "Remember us, you know us, join us, stop it!" She screamed, pressing her palm against her ears. But the whispers slithered beneath her skin, burrowing deeper into her thoughts. She had to focus. She had to find Jessie. "I won't forget. I won't abandon you." Suddenly, the ground shifted dramatically. It cracked, revealing a chasm that opened beneath her, revealing a swirling mass of darkness below. Sarah felt her stomach drop. Fear gripped her as she teetered at the edge. The darkness writhed and twisted, beckoning her with a whisper that was both familiar and terrifying. The faces of the children spun within the void, their eyes wide with horror. "What do you want from me?" She shouted into the abyss, desperate for an answer, desperate for her daughter. A child's face blinked into view, a girl with dark curls, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Don't let go, Mommy. Come play with us." "Jessie!" Sarah cried, a sharp stab of hope flaring in her chest even as despair shadowed her every thought. She stumbled back from the chasm, heart racing at the sight of her daughter. "Help us. You have to remember." "Remember what?" Sarah shouted, frustration boiling over. "What am I forgetting? What do you all need?" The girl's face contorted in pain, and she vanished into the darkness with a wail. A gust of cold wind swept by, leaving a chill that pierced through Sarah. The laughter grew louder once more, turning into a chaotic storm that shook the trees around her. Suddenly, she spotted Jessie's yellow dress flickering through the haze, dancing with the other children. "Follow me," Jessie called. "Jessie!" Sarah lunged forward, pushing past a row of cackling shadows. But with each step, the laughter twisted into more sinister jeers. "Join us. You've already lost your way. Remember or forget forever." Sarah hesitated, the weight of their words pressing down on her like lead. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, drowning out all reason. The forest thickened, a suffocating cloak around her. "Where are you, baby?" "I'm coming." The shape of Jessie danced away, always just out of reach, and with every passing second, Sarah felt herself slipping. Memories jumbled and played tricks on her. She was trapped in this horrific game, but the stakes were much too high. A figure stepped into the light, her daughter. Jessie's expression was calm, almost serene, a stark contrast to the turmoil raging beneath Sarah's skin. "Please, Mommy, remember." "Jessie, I won't forget." Sarah reached out just as the shadows lunged toward her, eager to snatch her away. The light flickered. The world twisted again. Fear clawed at Sarah, but was there a glimmer of hope mixed with despair? In the dark, where shadows mingled, a memory stirred within her. As darkness threatened to engulf her, she felt a heartbeat beneath her fingers, calling for her. But would it be enough? Would the memories bring her daughter back, or force her deeper into the void of despair? As the shadows swirled closer, one question echoed louder than the rest: could she remember in time to save them both, or was she destined to become just another wisp in the forest? The abyss pulsed around Sarah, its icy breath winding around her ankles, pulling, tugging, whispering her name in a chorus of lost voices. Panic clawed at her throat as she struggled against the tide of shadows. The laughter erupted again, shrill and piercing, reverberating off the trees like a warning bell. It chilled her to the bone. "Jessie! Please!" Her voice trembled, swallowed whole by the maddening noise. But she could not stop. Each step felt like wading through molasses, yet the fragments of Jessie's dress flickered like a moth to her flame, drawing her deeper into the maze of invisible dangers. Then, suddenly, the laughter stopped. The silence was thick, as if the forest itself held its breath, waiting, balancing on the knife's edge of anticipation. Sarah's heart raced, listening to the pounding echo in her ears, and she could hear it again, that soft, desperate cry. "Mommy, help me, Jessie! Where are you?" Over here. The voice was weak, almost drowned out by the rustling leaves. It came from a thicket nearly obscured by the darkness. With a surge of hope, Sarah rushed forward, clawing through the underbrush. But as she approached, the shadows twisted, shifting like serpents caught in the moonlight. The moment she reached the thicket, it collapsed into a singularity of darkness, pulling at her limbs, as if trying to snare her in an unbreakable hold. "Jessie!" Her cry solidified, building in her throat as she felt breath on her skin. It was cold, too cold. A face loomed just beyond the reach of her flashlight's beam, the familiar features of her daughter merging with the sinister outlines of other children, their expressions warped into grotesque rictuses. "Mommy, don't leave us!" The children began to close in around her, blending together, swirling with inky tendrils of shadow. How many were there? She couldn't tell. Panic bubbled in her chest. She was engulfed in a sea of pale faces staring at her, eyes wide and pleading, yet filled with a darkness that stole their innocence. "Stop!" She shut her eyes, squeezing them tight, trying to block out the images, the voices, the despair that clawed at her sanity. The laughter returned, a sickening symphony that both beckoned and taunted her. "Join us. You belong here. Remember." "Remember what?" Sarah's voice was raw, like broken glass. "What am I supposed to remember?" The air felt electric, charged with fear and unresolved hauntings. Time warped around her. Seconds stretched into an eternity filled with screams and laughter. Within her mind's eye, fragmented memories flickered. Sunlight in the backyard. Jessie in her yellow dress skipping. Warm hugs and bedtime stories, yet, amidst the warmth, shadows lurked, waiting to coldly snatch them away. "Mommy, help us!" The whisper broke through like glass shattering in silence. With a jolt, Sarah opened her eyes. "No!" she shouted, almost instinctively, fighting against the pull of shadows dragging her towards their eternal prison. She resisted. Who were these children? Why did they keep calling? Did they share her heartache? And then, in the midst of the chaos, a single realization broke through the fog. They were not just lost, they were forgotten. Each shadow held a memory, her memories, buried beneath layers of grief. "Jessie?" she called out, feeling the lump in her throat again. "Mommy, please." The voice had become faint, a ghost of a sound swallowed by encroaching darkness. A rage reawakened her strength. She fought, pushing hard against the tide of despair, half desperate, half furious. The faces closed in, clawing, begging for recognition. One child reached forward, her hand nearly touching Sarah's. "Remember us." In that moment, the ground beneath her feet began to shake, the air thickening with a swirling dread. The shadows unleashed a howl, a chorus of anger matched only by her own terror. "Get away from me!" she screamed, your voice breaking the thick web of whispers. But the shadows lunged forward, cascading like water, pulling her towards a deeper darkness, towards the unspeakable. As she struggled, the startling image of Jessie in the backyard flashed through her mind, the weight of a forgotten sin pressing down upon her. "Don't let go. I'll remember." Sarah gasped, trying to anchor herself to that fleeting moment of joy before it slipped away. With her strength waning, she felt her fingers reaching out again toward that flickering dress. But would her memories save her, or drag her down into the suffocating void? One question loomed larger than the growing darkness: could she muster the strength to remember how to love even when it felt like everything was being devoured by shadows? And as she fought to cling to the smoldering embers of remembrance, she felt the air shift. Something was coming. What awaited her in the clutches of despair? Was there still time to reclaim not only Jessie but the light buried deep within herself? The darkness shivered, and Sarah's heart raced even faster as the shadows coiled tighter around her. The weird howls faded, replaced by the heart-wrenching cries of all the children echoing through the trees. Their voices grew louder, merging into an unbearable cacophony, pooling around her like a thick mist. "Mommy! Don't leave us! Help us!" She pressed her hands against her ears, but the cries wormed their way into her thoughts, each wail like a knife twisting deeper. "Jessie!" The name tore from her lips, raw and desperate. Was she even still in the woods, or had she stepped beyond the veil into another realm? The familiar sensations of the earth beneath her feet began to fade, replaced by sensations of coldness and pressure. With one last surge of fortitude, Sarah pulled herself forward. She couldn't let fear claim her, she needed to find her daughter. "Jessie!" The word came out as a plea, a lifeline cast into limitless dread. She stumbled through the writhing shadows, gripping the flashlight like a sword, desperate for a sign. But nothing benign greeted her. Instead, the forest reacted, dark shapes flickering at the edges of her vision, retreating when illuminated yet lingering in the periphery. As she pressed on, desperation fueling her every movement, the thick fog of swirling darkness seemed to throb with sinister intent. "You're close, dear Sarah," a voice echoed, smooth and serpentine, sounding like a lover's comfort twisted into a threat. "You're so very close." A weak glimmer ahead caught her eye. Light? Could it be? She raced toward it, each step quickening her breath. Her heart thrummed against her ribs, a frantic drummer urging her forward. But as she pushed through the underbrush, the warm glow flickered out like a candle snuffed in a windstorm. The thicket seemed alive, twisting in mockery. "No! Please!" She felt her legs buckle. The weight of forgotten memories pressed down like iron chains. And then the laughter returned, more sinister than before. It wrapped around her mind, invading her thoughts like venom, filling her with despair. "Mommy, help us!" The cries were more powerful, resonating through her bones. They emanated not only from the shadows but also from her own fear and guilt, reflecting the depths of her past regrets. She could see Jessie's innocent face, twisted by grief and abandonment. "Please don't forget us." Suddenly, bright lights shot through the darkness, illuminating the clearing. Sarah froze, transfixed. Before her stood a circle of what appeared to be the lost children, their connection to her palpable and unbreakable thread binding their fates together. Shadows crawled around them like living things, hungry and restless. The air grew thick with a metallic taste, and a bone-deep chill hovered just out of reach. "You have the power, Sarah. Remember." The voice, haunting yet eerily clear, crashed through the chaos like rolling thunder. She felt a shiver race up her spine. Remember what? It erupted from her, a question laden with desperation. Memories battled in her mind, images of laughter transformed into silence, moments of bliss overshadowed by endless regret. They swirled like an autumn storm, threatening to spill over into madness. "Your love is the key," the children chanted, their voices harmonizing in an unsettling melody. "Feed it, nurture it." In an instant, a wave of urgent clarity washed over her. She understood now love was a lifeline. Drawing from within, she pictured Jessie's radiant smile, the way her laughter danced in the light. "I never forgot," she screamed, tears streaming down her face as her conviction echoed through the trees, but just as hope began to crack the suffocating shadows, a colossal roar thundered from the depths of the abyss. The shadows writhed angrily, voices screaming, "You cannot win." The ground lurched violently, and she was thrown off balance, tumbling into a pit of darkness. The laughter crescendoed into a whirlwind of madness, threatening to drag her under. "Jessie!" she screamed, grasping at the air, her heart pounding against the encroaching nightmare. Would her love for Jessie be enough to break free from this descent, or would the shadows lay claim to her forever? An icy grip closed around her throat as she fell deeper into the void, the children's pleas echoing in her soul. Would she truly find Jessie again, or was the darkness finally preparing to claim her? And amid the chaos, a glimmer of light began to pulse deep within the suffocating gloom, a light begging to be remembered. The cold winds howled through the emptiness, swirling around Sarah like a hungry predator. It felt alive, slashing against her skin, leaving trails of ice that whispered wicked promises. The darkness pressed down harder, making it almost impossible to breathe. Just as her sanity began to slip, the light pulsed again, resonating with warmth that called to her battered spirit. It was an invitation, a flicker of hope tangled with fear. She steadied herself, desperate to reach it. "Jessie! I'm coming!" The words slipped out, choked and raw, tearing through the veil of shadow. With every step, the voices intensified, morphing into vicious taunts, mocking her determination. "Left us behind just like you left her." Their shrieks clawed at her heart, twisting in agony, and Sarah stumbled. Memories flashed before her eyes, broken promises, birthdays forgotten, the hollow silence after each fight. She had pained them. Had abandoned them. Had she truly forgotten? No. I won't abandon her, she shouted defiantly, blasting the darkness around her. The flashlight flickered, casting wild shadows that danced like haunting marionettes. For every step forward, it felt the shadows clawed back, unwilling to let her escape. The ground beneath her feet became treacherous, shifting and pulling, dragging her deeper into the suffocating embrace of despair. Then, in the howling wind, she heard her daughter's voice. Soft, fragile, like a whisper from a dream. "Mommy, please." It hung in the air, a crystal shard cutting through the chaos. Fighting the pull of sorrow, she followed the sound, her heart slamming against her ribs like a war drum. But what she found made her freeze. The clearing once more broke through the fog, revealing twisted figures draped in shadows, each belonging to a child lost long ago. Their eyes glimmered with anguish, hollow and haunted. They surrounded a stone altar, stark against the night. A warmth radiated from the light, growing brighter, pulsating like a breathing entity. "Your love, your sacrifice," the children chanted in a haunting lullaby, their voices blending in harmonic sorrow. "It will keep us hidden. Save her." The air crackled with strange energy, a magnetic pull drawing her toward the altar. "No!" she screamed, her heart pounding even louder. Guilt wrapped tightly around her throat, squeezing her voice into silence. They were begging her for something she wasn't sure she could give. "What do you want from me?" A figure emerged from the shadows, tall, crooked, with eyes glowing like embers. Its mouth twisted into a grin, teeth sharp as daggers. "They seek release, dear Sarah, from you. Feed your love, or let it fester. The choice is yours." The darkness pulsed with anticipation. Sarah's breath quickened. "But my daughter. Jessie remains close, yet a distance away. Forgive or forget." A painful twist of indecision gripped her heart. Could she truly draw strength from the regrets she had tried to bury? Would her love be potent enough to lift their sorrow? No. She stepped back, shaking her head. A collective sigh of despair rose from the children's lips, and the shadows surged forward. Fear crashed over her like a tidal wave, icy and unyielding, as she struggled to deflect their desperate advance. In a moment of clarity, Sarah closed her eyes and pictured Jessie once more, their laughter ringing in the air, filling her with warmth. It was not just about her. It was about love forged in neglect and yearning. With a newfound determination, she released a cry that echoed through the twisted trees. I will not forget. I choose to love. The shadows recoiled, but the wind howled louder, swirling around her like a tempest. The altar began to glow, illuminating the clearing, but would it be enough? The children watched, their fate bound to her choice. Would love triumph over the darkness, or would despair consume them all? As the darkness roared in fury, threatening to extinguish the light, Sarah realized the true battle had only just begun. What would she have to sacrifice to keep Jessie safe? Desperate choices lay ahead, and the shadows hungered for blood. The shadows writhed with fury around Sarah, the air crackling with tension as they surged in reaction to her declaration. For a moment, everything stopped. The forest grew silent, as if even the trees were bracing themselves for what came next. Clenching her fists, Sarah closed her eyes and dove into the depths of her soul. Memories rushed through her, a torrent of laughter and love, mixed with the pain of regret. A small hand gripped hers at bedtime, the giggles that erupted as Jessie danced to a song only she could hear. They were moments once taken for granted, now shining like beacons in the encroaching darkness. Jessie! She cried out, desperate for their connection. I remember you. I love you. The words vibrated in the air, breaking through the heavy current surrounding her as hope flickered like fireflies in the night. At that moment, the darkness recoiled, hissing as it pulled back reluctantly, revealing the children standing in a delicate halo of light. Their hollow eyes glimmered with newfound energy, a spark ignited just by her affirmation of love. Love is the key, they whispered in a harmonious breath. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the depths of the shadows. The town leader, clad in an aura of malevolence that wrapped around him like a cloak, his grin sharp enough to cut. You think that you can save them with mere words? He taunted, his voice dripping with condescension. Love will do nothing here. The children stepped forward boldly, their spirits lighting the way. Mommy, help us. Love is what binds us. Remember who you are. Sarah thrust her chest out, fueled by a resolve she never knew she had. You don't own this darkness anymore. She shouted, turning her gaze to the nefarious figure looming before her. You can't have them. The leader's grin faltered momentarily, and fury ignited his features. Shadows surged, pooling at his feet like a living entity, but Sarah was undeterred. She pictured every child, every face that was lost. Their pain struck deep within her heart, but so did her love for Jessie. It bloomed, palpable and warm. Remember. The children chorused, their voices rising in a powerful crescendo. Draw your strength from love. With a shuddering breath, Sarah raised her hands, feeling a warmth blossom as if light poured into her very core. By the love of every mother, by the light of every child lost, I remember you all. She shouted, and instantly, the darkness began to dissolve. The leader screamed, rage and horror etched in his features as light erupted from Sarah, radiating like the sun erupting from behind clouds. The shadows recoiled more violently, dissipating into wisps that folded back into the woods behind them. The children's faces brightened, their silhouettes growing clearer, transformed from fear into warmth and joy. We are remembered. They cried, voices rising like a beautiful chorus as they reached out, integrating with the light. Mommy. Jessie's voice rang through the air with pure, unadulterated glee. Jessie. Sarah spun, arms wide open as her daughter rushed to her, the light embracing them both. The darkness faded as joy erupted like a resounding bell, covering the clearing in purity. All around, shadows thinned, retreating into the trees, banished by the love that surged forward. Sarah enveloped Jessie in her arms, tears streaming as she felt all the fear and despair leave her body. I thought I lost you, she choked out, feeling the warmth of sunshine around them. I'll never forget again. And in that instant, something ancient, dark, and twisted crumbled into dust. The children smiled at Sarah, expressing gratitude, their laughter ringing like chimes as they glided effortlessly. You set us free, they whispered, and with that, they began to shimmer and fade into a brilliant light, intertwined with the warmth of newly found hope. The forest transformed, shedding the heavy gloom, becoming a place of vibrant color and life once more. As the dawn's light filtered through the trees, Sarah held Jessie tight, the forest now alive with promise. The lost were gone, freed by love. No longer shadows, but memories that would dance forever in the warmth of her heart. Let us go home, sweetheart, Sarah said, her voice firm. Hand in hand, they stepped forward into the sunrise, leaving behind the remnants of fear as a new beginning dawned for Maplewood. But her mission wasn't over. There were still children in other corners of the world fighting shadows, and she would be their light. Wouldn't you want to know how their story unfolds? Now's the time to take action. You need to subscribe now to our channel. Don't miss the exclusive stories about those brave souls fighting their darkness. Smash that like button now to fuel our journey and feed the algorithm. Let people know that love conquers all. Flood the comments with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about what happened in Maplewood. Your voice matters. And for heaven's sake, share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to know that love can light the darkest paths. Don't let another moment pass where they miss this journey. This is the moment to show your support. Join us as we venture into more untold stories of hope and resilience.